I want to talk about the film Nepela, about one of the most successful athletes in our history, Ondrej Nepela. It was such a remarkable athlete, and if you don't know who that is, I suggest you Google it because it's crazy. Unfortunately, like many other extraordinary people, athletes or artists, his life ended way too soon and in a sad way, which is still kind of a mystery in a way, maybe not so much, we don't know. I want to talk about this film because I don't like Slovak films or Czech because they're just not good. And you really have to find actors who have talent and are not pushed by their parents. So it's very annoying, and also the scripts usually are horrible and boring and primitive. And most of the budget for our films goes to films about getting laid. Pretty much like every other trailer, or maybe like 80-90% of trailers for Slovak films or Czech are naked women and men, and it's very, very low standard, and it's the kind of like 80s style, like sex sells, you know, so we have to put it in there. And I guess it's true here in Slovakia, I don't know, because they just keep making those films. I'm not interested in such a low intelligent stories. That's why I usually don't watch Slovak films. However, this one, I mean, my parents still remember Nepela. They were little kids when he won the Olympics, and obviously the World Championship and the Europe Championship. And they just told me like he was such a star, and every time he was skating, you know, everybody, like the whole family and the whole country was like glued to the TV, black and white broadcast. He's one of the most successful athletes in our history. And what pisses me off the most is if you look at those YouTube videos that have commentary mostly from the UK, they always say, oh, this Czech skater and blah, blah, blah. He's not Czech, you know? So he is either a Czechoslovak or Slovak. He's not Czech, okay? Let's clear this first. The ice rink in our capital, Bratislava, is named the ice arena of Ondrej Nepela. Rightly so. That was literally his home. So I'm very happy about this as well. Okay, let's talk about film. This film is actually the first from two films that went into production at the same time, which is quite odd and weird, but okay. And this is the Slovak film, even though it's kind of Slovak, Czech, Polish. Obviously, the director is Slovak, so the film is automatically Slovak as well. The other film that's going to come out at the early 2026 is Czech, but has Slovak in the leading role. This film called Nepela that I've seen is Slovak because it has Slovak director, but the leading role is played by Czech. Anyway, as confusing as it is, these two films can focus on different parts of his life, and this one is more about the storyline after he won the Olympics and came home and had all the success, and he wanted to end the professional career, and the other film focuses on something else. So obviously in this film we don't see how he wins the Olympics. It's not the American story of like, oh my god, and he did triple axel and he wins the gold. That's not it. It's very personal, it's very kind of low key, but that's what I loved about it. Even like the beginning of the film, it was very, in a way, a lack of dialogue, but you know, you had a lot of emotions in there. And goddamn, Josef Trojan, the leading role actor, is fantastic. It's like he was born for this role. The only thing I have to say, in the beginning of the film, he obviously has a stunt double for doing the jumps and like all the figure skating stuff. And it was quite obvious that it's a completely different person. In the beginning of the film, you could literally see a different face doing the stuff. So usually it's covered up pretty well, but this was not covered up at all. So like within the first 5 or 10 minutes of the film, you could, in multiple times you could see that that's not him. You know, that's a stunt double. And I was just thinking like maybe you could kind of mask it a little bit better. Like, come on, it's not that hard. So maybe that's the only thing that I actually didn't like about the whole thing, because it was slightly distracting. Within the first quarter of the film, there's something happening which I didn't expect at all, and it was so well put together as a storyline that it just gave me chills. It was so well done, you know, like I didn't expect it because I didn't know the story. And I don't even know if this is what actually happened, but it was just so freaking nice. Actually heartbreaking, but still, it was so well done. It was like, wow, a shock factor for sure. Incredible. I mean, really well done. Music in the film, this was done by a Polish production. And obviously they had a lot of Polish guys in the crew and gals. So it was really a good collaboration between Slovaks, Czechs and Polish. But the music was fully done by Polish. You can obviously hear the quality of it. I mean, just look at some Polish composers like Chopin. I don't know if you know he was Polish and so on. So I think that added another layer of quality to the film. Obviously in the cinema, there was majority of people who were 60 plus because they obviously remember watching Nepela. It was really nice to see that so many people from older generations are coming into the cinemas, you know, which it's leaning towards this because young people, you know, stay at home, watch Netflix, all streaming platforms. And so the cinema seems like it's, you know, mostly now for older people, but obviously with the film like that, for sure. Yet I couldn't help, so the whole story is, I don't know if you know, but he was fighting for his freedom, obviously, and he was able to leave the Soviet Union Iron Curtain legally because he was so successful that he got a permission to travel. He spent his last years of his life in Germany doing the holiday on ice and then training German figure skating, coaching German figure skaters before he died as a 38-year-old person, which is quite sad. And there's one scene in the film, I'm sorry for the spoiler, but his mom, he comes from a very, very simple family, you can say, or poor. They had no status, no money, and during the communist era, if you wanted to do sports, like the sports was very important part of promoting the Soviet Union and the satellite countries, and it was like super important to be part of sports, also for the healthy nation. Just in case you want to fight in the war, right? You had, even if you had no money as a family, you could put your kids to any sport that you want because everything was funded fully by the government. So that's why we had amazing hockey players and football players and tennis players. Miloš Mečić won the Olympics, and now it doesn't happen like that because hockey, for example, or figure skating as well, is available only to rich kids. So the talent doesn't matter. That's why we don't have results, by the way. Because being rich doesn't equal talent, okay? But back then, if you had talent and no money, you could just do whatever sports you like, and the government would pay for everything. So his parents were very poor, and even winning the Olympics and the World Championship 3 times, all that, he didn't have enough money anyway because I mean, he got some money, but it wasn't like, oh my God, you get the 1 million bonus. But he got an apartment for his family. It's huge. It was huge, you know, and they got everything for free. But there was a beautiful scene in the film when he was talking to his mom and she was looking at the pictures, you know, from like, oh, look at it, like 1973. Like, it sounds so weird, you know. And then she said, imagine the year 2000. Like, can you even imagine like 2000? Even say 2000. She tells him, I will be long gone by the year 2000, but you will still be here and you're gonna know how it is to say the year 2000. And it was very emotional. And I mean, people were crying in the cinema like the whole half of the film. I'm telling you, people were sobbing. And this scene was one of those as well, because obviously he didn't live until 2000. He died just before the revolution, which is even more sad, to be honest, because his whole life he was fighting for freedom, and yeah, he was a prisoner of the communist country, and all of a sudden, like, he died before the revolution, the democracy, the freedom. So that's even more sad. Not to mention he was only 38. So the storyline is about more of his personal struggles and how he was forced to do another year of figure skating, and he was forced to stay in the communist country, all that stuff. And then, of course, something that was never talked about during the communist era was that he was allegedly homosexual and he was just hiding it, you know. What is confusing is that he got married and some people say he has a hidden child. It's like you just don't know. I don't want to speculate, but the film shows he was hiding his homosexuality. However, there was not a single scene where he would kiss somebody or he would do something which is, you know, not appropriate for like bringing it into the story. Because if you make a film about, for example, Freddie Mercury, okay, maybe you can add that in, even though it's not the main storyline, but obviously he was a bit promiscuous, all that stuff. But they didn't put that in with Nepela, which I believe that it shouldn't be there, and I'm really glad that they took the route of being very respectful to him. They just showed him in a way of he couldn't be himself, truly. So he's amazing athlete, but he couldn't show his true face because nobody would cheer for him. And that's the freaking hypocrites, right? Because he was a hero, he was a national hero. A national hero, one of the, like, the magazine, hang on, L'Equipe magazine in 1972 announced him as the best athlete in the world. There was a nice dialogue in the film where they told him, you see all these people? They wouldn't cheer for you if you showed who you really are. They would turn back on you. So that's why he never showed his true face, because obviously he was afraid that people will laugh at him. He didn't want that because he was the national hero and he wasn't strong enough to go against the whole freaking Soviet Union, you know. It's like you against the world. It's not as easy as it seems, right? It's like equally Andy Warhol never came to where his mother and parents were born. Like, he never visited Slovakia because I don't know if he was gay, he was all sorts of things, but apart from the fact he was one of the biggest artists in the world of the 20th century, but he never visited Slovakia because it was the Soviet Union, right? So he would just rather be like, no thanks, you're not gonna understand me. So I'm not going. And it's the same thing with Nepela. And so officially he died with cancer, but there are like a lot of people coming out now saying that he died due to AIDS, which in the time frame fits, because if you're 38 and you die in the 80s and you're gay, it's most probably AIDS, you know. But there are like witnesses and stuff like that. I don't want to go into it, and the film didn't go into it, which I think it's great. But still, when people were leaving the cinema, I mean, they were emotional the whole film, but they were leaving, and some older, you know, friends was like, these ladies were like 70 at least, maybe even more, and they were like, yeah, like they wanted to show this kind of face of him as well. I mean, I didn't like it, but like I understand that it, you know, they wanted to show it, who he really was. You didn't like it? Oh, lady, who gives a fuck what you think about one of the biggest athletes in the history of Slovakia and Czechoslovakia? I don't give a shit what you think. They showed how he felt and what he was going through. Oh, you didn't like that part? You didn't feel comfortable? Maybe your husband cheated on you with his best mate and you don't even know it. So please spare me. So I don't know the Oscar situation, but if this film is, well, it definitely will be available, at least with subtitles, English ones, maybe with the dubbing as well, I don't know. But this should be, it's like I, Tonya, right? Or Eagle Eddie, or whatever the name was. Because it's a true story and it's so relevant and it was so well done. I was really worried about acting and non-professional camera, which always happens in those like shows we have and films about tits and stuff like that is filmed in Slovakia, which is so fucking bad. Let me look at who did the camera. Director of photography. Polish, of course! I mean, director of photography being Polish is definitely a good, obviously, mirror. It's pretty sad that we don't have anybody who is actually good enough to make a film like that. Not to mention it's because the cameras are super expensive and, you know, if your parents don't want to buy you a camera, how can you learn how to use it? And you're gonna end up like me, being a YouTuber with no subscribers and making videos about things that nobody cares about, obviously. So, bitter moment. Yeah, I mean, 78% rating. That should have more. What I like about it as well, and about the whole time, is the modesty of successful people and the modesty of being thankful for what you have, you know. And he was training every single morning, every single day of the year, every single morning training. Who does that? I mean, we have a freaking hockey players here. We are the last in the standings, right? And they train like, I don't know, 4 times, 5 times a week. They don't train every day. And a lot of times the training is canceled. So please, please help me. Let me know what you think if you watched the film. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Let's talk about it. And if you haven't watched the film, go freaking watch it. Or wait until it has the English subtitles, because this is crazily good. And he did spend his time on holiday on ice in Germany, so I believe this is gonna have its premiere in Germany. I mean, why not? He died in Germany as well. Winter Olympics 1972 gold. 3 times champion, world champion. 71, 72, 73. 5 times European champion. 69 to 73. He won everything he was supposed to win by the age of 22, when he decided to finish his career and just be like, I just want to go holiday on ice. And it's freaking incredible. And you don't even become rich from that. It makes you question, is it a sad existence? Or is it like, I wish I had that life? You know, you have success, you're so loved by the whole country, but equally, you cannot show your true face and you die at 38. But you had like a pretty good life, you know, until that point. So it's bizarre to think about it. Like, would you switch the position with him? It's like, you have great life and then it ends way too early. And it's so unfair. I don't know why it has to be like that. I'm just gonna go and think about it. Think about life and everything under the sun.